Hello, and welcome to part 3 of your biology portfolios. This is going to be the section on biological evolution and classification. And so let's just honestly jump into it, shall we? As you can see here, this is the project for biological evolution and classification. What you're going to do is you must do all of the following, which is choose 3 different plants or animals to research and put them in their proper classification. In other words, you can choose 3 animals, you can choose 3 plants, you can choose 2 plants and an animal, 2 animals and a plant, whatever, it's going to be up to you, okay? But it has to be at least 3 different organisms. You must include the name of their proper domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. You will define each level of classification. In other words, for kingdom level, is it a fungi, is it protista, is it a plant, or is it an animal? Which kingdom does it fall into, and why? What makes your species a part of that kingdom? Okay, include a picture for each definition. In other words, include a picture of each kingdom or of each level that you're going with. So if you're going to choose, like so, say you choose an animal, well, obviously it's going to be falling under the animal kingdom. So then choose a picture that represents the animal kingdom along with your definition for what is the animal kingdom and define why your species or your organism fits within that kingdom of animal kingdom. Okay? If you choose a plant, then choose a plant or a picture that represents the plant kingdom, and then explain what the definition of the plant kingdom is, and explain why your species or your organism falls under the plant kingdom. You will do this with every single level, starting with domain all the way down to species. Next, you will determine what level of classification that each of your 3 organisms separate at. In other words, if you choose 3 animals, at what level is it going to be? Because if you choose 3 animals, obviously they're going to be in the same domain and they're going to be in the same kingdom. But are they in the same phylum? Are they in the same class? Are they in the same order? Okay, it's like at what level is the first level that they split off at, right? So if they share a phylum but have a different class, tell me what different, it's like give me a slide after you've done all of the labeling for all 3 organisms, then give me a slide that tells me at what level does each one separate from the other. And then tell me why they separate at that. Did you choose a reptile and or a reptile, an amphibian, and a mammal? And so they separate out there. Did you choose 2 different kinds of fish, or did you choose 2 different kinds of bear? Did you go to the animal or the plant kingdom? Did you choose 2 different types of flowers? Did you choose 2 different types of trees, or 3 different types of trees, or shrubs, or bushes, or whatever it is? Even the types of grass doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you're going to look at, where do they separate from each other at? And once again, what makes them differ at this point? So also using this method, determine which 2 of the animals or which 2 of the plants or which 2 species are the most closely related to each other. So in other words, which ones share the most levels in common with each other. It's not difficult, but once again, just make sure that you are specific as to how many or as to why they are more closely related. You will make a Google Slides presentation using these pictures and descriptions and making sure to share the final product with Mrs. Coward and myself. To give you a better idea of what I'm talking about when I'm saying define each of the levels of classification, this is what I'm referring to. Okay, all you literally have to do is what is a domain classification? Type that into Google. One of the first things that comes up is the taxonomy. We're talking about the taxonomy classification. So then you can even, if you go, so if you click on this, this will take you to the definition here. If you click on that, then it will take you here. Just scroll down. Definition right here. Domain is the highest taxonomic rank in the hierarchical biological classification system, above even the kingdom level. There are 3 domains of life: archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Organisms from archaea and bacteria have a prokaryotic cell structure. Remember the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Whereas organisms from the domain eukarya or eukaryotes encompass cells with a nucleus confining the genetic material from the cytoplasm. So in other words, is it a simple organism? Is it a complex organism? Obviously, the ones that we're going to be doing are probably going to be complex. So 9 times out of 10, the ones that you're going to choose are probably going to be in the domain of eukarya. But what is that, right? So include the definition. It's in the domain eukarya. Well, what is that? Or the organisms from the domain eukarya encompass cells with a nucleus that confines the genetic material from the cytoplasm. In other words, they have a nucleus inside of the cell, unlike bacteria and archaea. Then you can even go into an overview. You can even go into further reading. Doesn't matter. But this is what I'm expecting here for the definition. Tell me why it falls into these categories. What does each one mean, which will tell you why it falls into that category. And to give you once again an example of what I'm expecting whenever it comes to the classifications and looking at the similarities and differences of each of the animals. Then if you go here, all you have to do is look up levels of classification. One of the pictures is this one. If you click on it, it brings you to here. So once again, you have a row of different animals. This one starts out with a kingdom, or with the level of kingdom. Once again, I need you to go up to domain, but this gives a really or a very clear example of how each one of these is, how similar and how different some of these animals actually are. All of these animals fall under the kingdom of animal. But you look at all these, you have grizzly bear, black bear, giant panda, red fox, Albert squirrel, coral snake, and sea star. Then you fall down to, or you go down to the phylum, or the phylum of Chordata. Once again, you'll need to look up what Chordata means. That has to do with the skeletal structure and everything, but find the definition of what that means, and that will tell you that whenever you go to the phylum of Chordata, that all of these, the bears, the giant pandas, red fox, all of these down share the same phylum, except the sea star does not. It has a different phylum. So it shares the kingdom, but it doesn't share the phylum. Then go down to class. Class is Mammalia, which is mammals. Out of all of these are mammals except for the snake. So the snake is a reptile, so it goes, and further down, and so on and so forth. All of these are mammals, but then you drop down. The order here is Carnivora, which is carnivores. In other words, they are meat eaters. Squirrels are not meat eaters, so they're not part of the same order here. Then drop down, go to the family, Uridae. So you go Uridae, which are bear-like in a lot of things, but they're not fully classified as bears because that's where the genus is, where Ursus right here, and then drop down Ursus arcturus, which is actually a grizzly bear. That's more commonly known as a grizzly bear, but this is the species name here. And so if you'll see, out of all of these animals, while it's most expected, the grizzly bear and the black bear are the most closely related out of all of these animals. Why? Because they share every single thing in common until you get down to the species. So in other words, they share the same genus, but they are different species. So once again, they're going to be very, very closely related. But so this is what I'm talking about whenever I say how closely are they related? How many of the levels of classification do they share? And the ones that share the most are the most closely related. Okay? If you have any questions on that, then by all means, let me know. To look at the classification project for your rubric. Okay, you will choose your 3 species. Okay? Each one of these boxes where the point. Do you have the correct domain, the correct kingdom, phylum, order, class, family, genus, and species? If you have the correct ones of those for each of your 3 species, you will get all those points and you will add those up together. You will also get a point for every yes here, right? Do you actually have 3 different species that you've compared and contrasted with each other? So do you have a slide that says which 2 are more closely related? Yes or no? Do you have a slide that says where each one of the different species begins to differ from each other? Yes or no? Did you include pictures of all three species, of all three specific species? Yes or no? Did you define each of the levels of classification for all three species? Even if they're the same ones, then that just means all you have to do is copy and paste for each one. Do you have pictures for each level of classification? As for your grades, once again, for an A, 27 to 30 points. For a B, 24 to 26 points. C, 21 to 23 points. D, 18 to 20. And F is 17 or less points. If you have any questions, once again, let me know. Contact me at kmorris, MORRIS, at crandall-isd.net, and I will answer any and all questions that you may have. And let's have some fun and get these back to me as soon as you can.